Yes, Priya, we can get started.
Uh, yeah, just a minute. So, good morning to all our esteemed panelists and participants. I am Priya Singh from Grand Thornton, and it's bring me a great joy to welcome each one of you joining from different corners of the globe for today's fireside chat on navigating excellence insight into Lean Six Sigma. So, we will be providing an in-depth understanding of Lean Six Sigma and its distinctiveness from other process improvement methodologies. We will highlight the foundational principles and benefit of Lean Six Sigma and discussing its relevance in today's technological advanced landscape. So the panelists will share real-world success stories, offer advice for the beginners, and address common misconception emphasizing Lean Six Sigma's applicability across various industries beyond manufacturing. So your engagement will enrich our discussion whether you are seasoned professional or a curious learner. So allow me to introduce our distinguished panelists, Captain Vinay Singh and Mr. Anirudh Chakravarti. So Captain Vinay Singh served the Indian Navy with distinction for 27 years, specializing in naval operation and nuclear, biological, and chemical defense. Post-retirement in 2020, he has been leading Sambhav Kadam Foundation and the Milvest Initiative, the largest skilling program for military community in India. An alumnus of the prestigious National Defence Academy, Captain Singh's career is marked by numerous commendations and significant contribution to the strategic naval project and amphibious warfare. Beyond his naval duties, he was a founding member for Indian Navy CSR core team, focusing on corporate social responsibility for the military and veteran community. Under his guidance, Milvest recently launched Project Deepak, aiming to upscale over 10,000 military community members in 2024. So now about Mr. Anirudh Chakravarti, a director at Grant Thornton, has an impressive career spanning over 27 years. For the past 19 years, he has been dedicated consultant, spearheading business transformation engagement across the industries and geographies. Mr. Chakravarti's extensive portfolio include consulting for over 100 global clients across India, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Middle East, and South Africa. His profound knowledge and strategic insight had led to a significant improvement in organization from various diverse sectors such as metal, glass, textile, chemical manufacturing, heavy engineering fabrication, thermal power generation, renewable energy, infrastructure development, BFSI, shared services, hospitality, healthcare, and aviation. Over the last 19 years, Mr. Chakravarti has conducted more than 25 assessments on business excellence methodologies. He has also been instrumental in training over 8,000 participants in Lean and Six Sigma methodology, including Green Belt, Black Belt, and Master Black Belt certification. His leadership in business transformation project on Lean Six Sigma, TPM, and TQM platform has resulted in remarkable cumulative profitability improvement of $500 million. Thank you for gracing us with your presence, Captain Singh and Mr. Chakravarti. Before we begin, I kindly ask all the participants to submit their question in Q&A section. We aim to address all the queries during the session, and any unanswered question due to time constraint would be receiving response via email. So now, without further delay, let's hear from Captain Vinay, who will explain what Lean Six Sigma is and how it distinguishes itself from other process improvement methodology. Over to you, Captain.
Thank you, Miss Priya, for welcoming me and also inviting me to this session. Glad to share this podium with an expert on Lean Six Sigma, that's Mr. Enruth. And thank you, Grant Thornton, for inviting me here. Uh, so, when we talk about Lean and Six Sigma, we have a. Am I audible? Is my audio clear?
Yes,
Perfect.
yes,
Captain, if
So,
you could be a little louder, it's a bit just volume is a bit low. If you could be a little louder.
okay. So, my interest in Lean Six Sigma is essentially from the perspective, as you read out, Ms. Priya, that we intend to skill a lot of people in military and veteran community, and that's what is our specialization or purpose at Milwest, which is our skilling arm at Sambhagodam Foundation. So, it is always from the user perspective on the knowledge that we gain from Lean and Six Sigma, and then last 4 years has been, you know. Getting more and more insights into this part and how does it affect the professionals or the organizations when you acquire this qualification Lean Six Sigma. And I've seriously been falling into love more and more every day, and we've been doing this Lean Six Sigma program, of course, with specialized and customized delivery with Grant Thornton and our team at Milwest. So when we look at Lean and Six Sigma and why it is, while there is just so much to dive deep into it with specialists like Mr. Enruth, who spent a whole lot of 27 years into this, but very simplistically put, it's a combination of two words, Lean and Sigma, Six Sigma. And while Lean would talk about reducing waste, improving a flow, and increasing an efficiency of an organization or a process, the Six Sigma would talk about reducing the variation, reducing the defects, and bringing a near perfect quality. Now, in a very simple terms, if you look at just these two aspects, Lean and Six Sigma, and you want to reduce the waste, increase efficiency, as well as remove the defects and improve quality, I think you have sold yourself to the customer. So that is the beauty of Lean and Six Sigma that brings to the table immediately. It of course also has a very strong customer focus, and the world today is all about customer centric approach. We've been listening to it about for the last 10 years, and so much more as going forward. So it has a very strong customer focus, and everything is designed from the perspective of the customer rather than from the perspective of the specialist. Like I talked about Lean Six Sigma, when I see the skill, I see it from my participants who would gain this, and then what do they get. Similarly, within Lean Six Sigma, it's all about customer focus. Then it doesn't talk about just assumptions. It is a very strongly data driven, making and outcomes out of it or inferences out of it. And it does talk about continuous improvement. So it's a very, very wholesome process. Then it, of course, deals into the framework is DMAC framework, and I think some of our participants would already know about it. Define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. So it does take you to the complete process of from the time you start a Lean Six Sigma process to the time you stabilize and then continue to monitor it. Uh, it has got amazing tools like value stream mapping, Kaizen, statistical process controls, and thence I feel that there is it's a very comprehensive approach. Not only from the just the Lean and Six Sigma both combined. It talks about quality and efficiency. It has structural DMAC methodology. It has much larger toolkits compared to other similar, methodologies like total quality management or agile, which may talk about like improving just the quality or probably the speed of delivery. I rest.
Great. Thank you so much, Captain Singh, for your insightful explanation. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Chakravarti to discuss the relevance of Lean Six Sigma in today's technological advanced landscape. So over to you, Mr. Chakravarti.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you so much. And thank you for the wonderful introduction, first of all, and Captain for giving a plain, simple, logical explanation to what Lean Six Sigma is all about and how does it help
And please feel
organizations.
free,
So,
Mr. Anirudh, please feel free in case I made some error because I may not be the specialist. Please feel
no,
free
no,
to add over there.
you, you are as good as any one of us. Thank you, sir. So yes, Lean Six Sigma has been relevant for almost 40 years now. We all know that it was a concept that originated out of Motorola way back in 1988. And the most beautiful aspect of Lean Six Sigma has been that over the last almost 40 odd years, little less than 40 possibly, the entire structure of Lean Six Sigma and DMAIC has remained unchanged, and which proves the strength and the robustness of this entire framework of process improvement, that every concept that has ever been introduced with time, it definitely evolves. As industry grows and grows from industry 2.0 to industry 4.0 and beyond possibly, and generations evolve from being uh, Gen Z to Gen Alpha. But over all that time and all the turbulence and all the growth and the entire disruption that industry has seen in these years, and possibly exponential amount of disruption, the structure of Six Sigma or Lean Six Sigma has not changed. And that just proves and lays the foundation that what a robust system it is. And like Captain Vinay was mentioning, that Lean Six Sigma is all about improving your processes, improving your efficiency, reducing your defects. I think one of the most important aspects of Lean Six Sigma and why it has continued the way it has always been is that it brings value to your bottom line, brings value to your top line, and it secures a business continuity for the organization. Because at the end of the day, which is that organization which will continue to grow and prosper is that organization which enhances its top line definitely, but also secures bottom line. Now, what happens is in most organizations and many organizations that actually don't follow Lean Six Sigma or not adopted Lean Six Sigma as far, they would have implemented other methodologies for quality improvement. But there is one issue with that is that normally it's not that we allow bad quality to happen. I don't think there's a single organization that willfully passes on bad quality to customers. But there's a cost of quality. And while at the end of the day, we may still deliver good quality, high quality to our customers, but what goes wrong in that delivery is the cost of delivering that quality, because there's a high amount of possibly end of the line inspection or kind of transaction monitoring. So the ones who are from the service field, they do more of transaction monitoring. Those who are from the manufacturing field do more of kind of quality control inspections or pre-dispatch inspections. So this whole cycle of inspection, correction, detection, repair, rework, and somehow ensuring that whatever gets passed to the customer is of good quality comes at a high cost. Because there is a thumb rule that I would like to share with you, that it costs 5 times as much to repair, rework, re-inspect, redispatch as much to not repair, not rework, and just dispatch right the first time. So the 5 times difference of cost in between dispatching for right the first time and doing repair, rework, and then doing this, kind of second repaired or reworked dispatch. And that's where Six Sigma comes in. Because Six Sigma or Lean Six Sigma, as it is more popularly called over the last 10, 15 years, it puts in a double check as a assurance methodology in your process, where you are able to achieve high quality outputs, defect free outputs, high performance outputs at a higher speed. Because lean, it gives velocity to the process using tools like waste reduction, value analysis, value stream mapping. All those methodologies, all those approaches help reduce waste, reduce unnecessary activities, and make your process lean and make your process fast. Whereas Six Sigma comes in and reduces variation. So the power of Lean and Six Sigma put together is that you are delivering predictable outcomes at a high speed. And why is it important to have predictable outcomes? How do predictable outcomes help industry, whether it is in the age of technology or not in the age of technology? Is that you are pretty sure of what is going to come out of your process. Most of the time, we are uncertain of what the output is going to be from the process. And once the output comes out, then we are in reactive mode of how to make it right so that the customer gets the right. With the concept of Lean Six Sigma, you plan your process in such a way, you measure your process in such a way, you use tools in your process, you use monitoring systems in your process, such that defects do not happen at all. And the very foundation mantra of Lean Six Sigma is that you plan and monitor your process such that the processes operate defect free. When processes operate defect free, automatically the output that is getting delivered defect free and any output that is delivered defect free will perform failure free. So these are the three, kind of mantras that are there. That process has to operate defect free. Once a process operates defect free, the output is defect free. If output is defect free, performance is failure free. Because today, what does quality mean? In today, what does the customer define quality as? Customer defines quality as failure free performance. Whether you buy a oven or a refrigerator or a car or any equipment that you can think of, computers, shoes, apparels, whatever you think of, you are buying a certain product or you are subscribing to a certain service, whether it is banking, whether it is telecom or credit cards or whatever it may be. You are enlisting to those services or you're buying a product with a life expectancy that at least for that much amount of time, I will have an experience where there are no failures in the services provided or in the product bought. That is what is the definition of quality difference. Whatever you buy or whatever you subscribe to has to perform without failures. Do I want to keep contacting the service center? Hey, you know what? This is not working. That is not working. This feature is not coming. Is that what is called an experience? No. Whatever features I have paid for, whatever services I have paid for, need to perform failure free. I should not be required to contact service centers or call centers to get any kind of my grievances resolved that this is not working or that is not working. I may want to contact the service center for change in services, change in address, change in telephone number, that's a different thing. Always remember that there's a difference between a complaint and a query. So while I may need to raise queries so as to change some features in my services, but I should not ever need to raise a complaint that a particular service is not working. That's what the customer wants. And that can happen only when your processes operate defect-free. And today, in today's technology, it is so important that you plan and design your processes to work defect-free, because in the automated world, there is no calling back. Once you put your process in an automated engine, then there is very less opportunity for you to call back that process, and it's going to be very costly. Calling back, redesigning, redeploying. You can imagine the people who work in the fields of AIs and MLs and RPS, once you have deployed AI, and if your process planning, your process designing, your process input outputs are not defined in a way that failures are controlled or it's failure free, you'll only be gushing out garbage in a more efficient way. So we always say that if your processes are not right and you just want to make them right by putting in automation, then you will be only generating more garbage more efficiently. So my friends, what is relevant today in today's world of high technology driven process operations? Whatever platform it may be, whether it is AI, whether it is ML, whether it is RPA, we have to make sure that our basic process design, our basic process blueprints are designed in a way that they are defect free. And when I say that they should be defect free, that means what? That we all know that any process to operate has some key parameters, key performance indicators, KPIs, you call them key success factors, whatever name you want to keep them. But every process will have certain parameters, certain variables that are key for the process to be successful or the process to operate without any defects. Now, whether it is the temperature of the oven, whether it is the efficacy of the leave and attendance system that leads to your payroll process effectiveness, or whether it is the way you collect your customer KYC, which leads to the mining of the insurance policies. So every process has key inputs that are critical for the process to deliver correct. And if you can maintain those key inputs, maintain the robustness, maintain the accuracy, maintain the relevance of those key inputs, then your process can't go wrong. So very simple, very basic Six Sigma. There's a lot of myth that Six Sigma is highly complicated or Lean Six Sigma highly complicated, full of statistics. Let me share with you, with 27 years of experience and 19 years of experience of dealing. I've been in Six Sigma since 2000. It's almost 24 years now, and been a Lean Six Sigma black belt, master black belt, and executed more than 700 projects across 100 organizations, delivering all those savings. I can tell you that the most powerful weapon that is required on the table to be successful with Lean Six Sigma and successfully make sure that your processes deliver right every time is common sense and logic. It's 80% common sense and logic, 20% about the statistics and tools that we use. Because what data to collect, your logic and common sense will tell you. What tool to use, your logic and common sense will tell you. Once you have analyzed the data and got the interpretation, how to decide what to do with that interpretation, common sense and logic will tell you. So don't get overawed or don't get bogged down by the fact that, oh my God, if I have to do Lean Six Sigma or learn Lean Six Sigma, I have to be a statistician or I have to be a mathematician. It's not that. You have to be a good, simple, logical human being with high amount of the sense that is required is common sense. And that is why I say that irrespective of the technological advances, irrespective of what level of technology you're going to use, basic process blueprinting and ensuring that your processes are having the right key performance parameters or KPIs identified and their monitoring systems in place, then you are in good hands.
Great.
Yes,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Chakravarti, for elaborating the relevance of Lean Six Sigma in today's rapid change that is happening in market. So now I would like both of you, if you can share your success stories to inspire our participant, like explore the real world example where Lean Six Sigma has made a significant impact in both of your careers.
So
So,
I'll,
Captain, you would
I'll
like to go first?
Yes, Mr. Nirud, I'll go first. Why? Because you kind of implement hundreds of projects, so I'm sure you have endless stories to tell. But let me tell you from my limited framework. But I was very excited to. So we as I said that we do train military folks and their family members, which also includes spouses, which also includes veterans who are already working in the industry. So it is not just we that we train only military people, but yes, people from the military origin who work in corporates, who work in organizations, who are non-military spouses or wards working in the corporates and industries. So I was very thrilled to get a very direct feedback from one of the surgeon commanders. That's a doctor in the Indian Navy, right? So this military officer, this doctor, military doctor, he was deputed on Coast Guard, Indian Coast Guard, and military board proceedings. So annual medicals is a regular feature which each of our soldiers has to go through, and Coast Guard also has exactly the same replica procedures as Navy. It was born out of Navy in 70s. So the medical board procedures, and every individual has to go through. So it's an organization extensive process, and then it has its own multiple checks procedures. It goes over a period of time. So this officer, since he was a very sincere doctor who had the aptitude to look at processes, he had put out a case how the process can be simplified, and he put out this case and sent it to his headquarters. He wrote it down into number of pages and he sent it to his headquarters, and it died its death in the files, right? And then this officer also decided to do Lean Six Sigma with us. We
Mm-hmm.
first of all, I was a little, I found that I noticeable that a doctor was doing Lean Six Sigma. So then I got in touch with him, and as we spoke at length, and I found his keen interest into statistics, etc., from the basic aptitude. So he did the Lean Six Sigma green belt. He did the Lean Six Sigma black belt. Between the green belt and the black belt, he decided to revisit that file or the case that he had actually felt so compelled to write about it, because he saw the process was not so efficient and there was a lot of waste over there, and he used only the lean component. But now with this knowledge of Lean Six Sigma that he acquired in a process framework, he wrote the case again. The case went to the Coast Guard headquarters. Not only it got approved, he got commended by the apex body of the Coast Guard, and they mapped out that it actually led to 40 crores of savings. And Coast Guard decided to then write a letter to Indian Navy saying
Okay.
your officer from the Navy working in the Coast Guard led to an exceptional improvement in the processes, and we recommend you also follow the same. So that was, I mean, it is a very small but a real world case of
Uh,
where we found amazing amount
almost
of
like
success. And
yeah,
of that,
almost like reverse engineering.
absolutely, absolutely. And while at it and speaking, I would also like to talk about few things like maybe a very small success story again. I don't know, it should be called a success story, but relate also to the part where you talked about Lean Six Sigma in technology, as well as the essences about planning and designing processes, right?
Yes.
Which are right at the design stage. If you can plan and design processes which will work, then I think you've captured the most of Lean and Six Sigma, and rest would be a cakewalk. So we were 3 years delivering month-on-month programs to military folks, and our customer acquisition would be a challenge in a non-internet domain that military folks would exist, or let's say the military community is a little insulated from rest of the world for good reasons. So we, after 3 years of our learning, we decided to expand and blast it completely. That we will do programs where thousands of people are there together, and so we launched Project Deepak.
Okay.
And while the idea started, in fact, it started with, with brainstorming with Mr. Nitesh Jain was the first one whom I brainstormed with this idea in May. The idea was a little different, slightly different. I mean, it got, streamlined subsequently. So in October onward, the idea actually started taking shape. And we had this challenge of teaching from 1,500 to 15,000 people in the same class.
Wow.
We had aimed for 5,000 people. We are at 1,500, but probably we are the largest cohort in the world today. as a as a single class which goes on for 8 months. And so since we had this challenge, and this has not been done before, because we did extensive amount of research, we also talked to universities. In fact, nobody wanted to believe that this can be done. I'm just trying to bring out that, well, this is a small case, but it was beautiful enough to talk about here in terms of processes. Now we had to ensure that in a learning process, multiple, so many large number of participants come. There is a mix of a live and a webinar mode.
Right.
It goes on without any customer support. So there is zero customer support for 8 months, right? And we couldn't afford that because it's a near free program. It's kind of a sponsored program. So we could not have that extensively expensive customer support in terms of people. And classically, the dialogue today is that Milvis is run by just a computer and a spirit. There's no human behind it, right? We wanted to make that lean up program. Happy to say that we are halfway through the program and it is running beautifully. Not only the operational side or the customer support side, and you can see the number of hearts and claps. I think they're all Milvestians who are talking about it. Those who are Milvest can actually put their in the chat Milvest, and then we would also try and see how many Milvestians are here. But you can see a whole lot of Milvestians are here. So not only is the operational part or the delivery part was sorted, but we also designed the processes for that. How do you get a learner into first a learning mindset before he attends a live workshop, right? And he's in a webinar mode. How do we touch them? Make sure that they have come into a learning mode. How does the content get delivered by the professor? He has to deliver a program for a 60-year-old,
Yeah.
for a
And
78-year-old who's the eldest participant in the program, to a 21-year-old who's the youngest participant in the program, to a military generals and equivalents in the army serving or retired, to the soldiers and Jawans, to the spouses, to the children. But we invested so much into the design part and the process part. And we really went through it over and over again. And I think we invested a lot into using a whole lot of these concepts that, thankfully to Grant Thornton, you've been teaching our participants. And we've been in listening mode in and out of the programs, but imbibing the radiation continuously. But I thought it was a worthwhile thing that we are doing something innovative. We've kind of hopefully it is a transformative journey for the education industry going forward, because these kind of large programs have not been done before. And we've taken all the components of lean and six sigma, whatever we could imbibe and learn, and practically implemented that, invested into the processes extensively. So we have a zero customer support. We are absolutely lean. We have a zero defect. We thrust it on a participant that no, system is not wrong, you are wrong, please correct it at your level, and it works. The learning is happening fantastic. The impact stories are beautiful. So yes, I thought I'll tell you two success stories. One was that naval doctor improved the process in Coast Guard. One was this, because better from my perspective anyway, since I work only from the veteran perspective. You would probably bring on the stories from the industry side. But these are the real world, very cute little stories, and I thought
absolutely.
I'll bring it out here. Over to you, Mr. Anirudh.
Thank you, Captain Vinay. I mean, anything that you have lived and done yourself is always the most inspiring story that you can have. So I'll give you kind of stories where, yes, I have been instrumental in. I've always been a consultant, so I've always been the catalyst. I've been the Hanuman of the process, if I can put it. You go in there, solve the problem, and come out of it. So there was, and this was a time. It was around 2002, and I was working for a electronics community organization, basically manufacturing TVs, television manufacturing company. And we had a joint venture with the Japanese company for the technology. So there was this meeting happening, and as head of Six Sigma for that organization at that point of time, I was reporting to the chairman because no one else in the organization really understood what Six Sigma was in 2002, and they did not want to take my reporting because they did not know what I'm going to do. So chairman said, okay, you don't have to report to anyone else, you report to me. So just by that design, I was kind of the youngest person in the organization reporting directly to the chairman. But that gave me the opportunity to be a part of this meeting, which was happening between our company and the technology company that was out of Japan. And somewhere during this meeting, my chairman, I don't remember the exact context of things, but somewhere he came out with a statement that we are a customer-focused organization. And Japanese, they are not very conversant with English, but they catch on to words, defect free, customer focused, such words. So the moment the Japanese CEO heard the words that this organization was a customer focused organization, immediately got interested, and he asked my chairman, can you give me a small example of how you demonstrate being customer focused? And I was like, I was just scratching my head. What is my chairman going to say? Because I really didn't know that we were customer focused, in spite of heading Lean Six Sigma with the organization at that point of time. And my chairman very proudly said that we have got 1,500 service centers with more than 3,000 service engineers ready to respond to a customer complaint within 1 hour. So it's very important to understand this, that we have got 1,500 service centers with more than 3,000 service engineers ready to respond to a customer complaint within 1 hour. And I could see the face of the Japanese CEO kind of go white, and he was too embarrassed. And he very softly asked my chairman, is your quality that bad? Is your quality that bad that
I was
what are you
about to
putting out in the
yeah.
market that you need?
First I said wow, then I was about to say the same thing, that why do you have so many centers and so many people? Yeah.
Exactly. But way back at that time, we were very service center oriented. So even today, the mentality of the Indian buyer is that if you want to buy a phone, you first check out where is the nearest service center. So we ourselves as a customer community have to come out of that thought. But way back in 2002, and that is where he said that for a customer base of 1 million, and I still remember those words ringing in my ear, that for a customer base of 1 million, he said, I have just one service engineer. And he has never ever repaired a TV. What he does is demo calls for high-end products. So they really don't believe that defects and after-sales service does not exist for them. So that was one kind of incident. It always stays with me. It has always stayed with me because of such a emphatic understanding of the meaning of the word quality that the entire concept of after-sales service negates the term quality. Because if you really delivering quality products or quality services, then you really don't need customer support or after-sales service. But coming to a real life Six Sigma project, and something that I hold very close to my heart, is when I was leading a national demonstration project on Lean Six Sigma in healthcare, which was in 2010, 2011. And this was sponsored by Quality Council of India, where we were given the task of implementing a pilot project of Lean Six Sigma in 10 hospitals across the country. And they were from different states, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, everywhere. So around 8 states and 10 or 12 hospitals. So one of the biggest problems that came across, I think almost 10 out of the 12 hospitals, they said our biggest problem is patient discharge time. But I, like most other common man, said that, but patient discharge time is to your advantage, isn't it? You make the patients overstay and get more money out of them. But then said, no, that's not how it works. Because a patient who's due for discharge and is recovered, their annual revenue to the hospital is 2,000 rupees a day, where the patient coming into the ER is 20,000 rupees a day.
20,000,
So
yes.
because my patient has not been discharged, my room has not been vacated, I cannot move patient from ICU to room. I cannot move patient from ER to ICU, and I cannot admit new patient in ER. I have to return the ambulance. Returning that ambulance costs me 20,000 rupees a day. Keeping a recovered patient in the room is only 2,000, so I'm suffering 18,000 rupees loss. So, and that was a concept that we don't realize. We think that hospitals make us overstay because they want to make money out of us, but that's not the case. They are equally eager to get a recovered patient out of the hospital. So this was the problem, that patient discharge time takes too long. It takes around 5.5 to 6 hours, and most of us, unfortunately, would have been in a situation where we would have experienced this. Someone of our near or dear ones would have been in hospital, and patient discharge is such a frustrating process. If the doctor writes discharge at 10 o'clock in the morning, and by the time you leave the hospital, it's 5 in the evening. So this was taken up, and we found out that one of the best parts of Lean Six Sigma, what my friends, is that any problem solving happens through strict analysis of data. And nothing that we decide in a Lean Six Sigma project is based on guesswork or estimates or feelings. It's always based on data. So while we may feel that there are various factors that influence our defect or problem, which in this case is long patient discharge time, there are tools that are there in Six Sigma that help us evaluate which factors are significant contributors and which are not significant contributors. In a normal problem solving journey using other methodologies, this is one missing factor. Where whether you're doing a Kaizen or they're doing a QC, you consider all factors that influence the problem. But in Six Sigma, you prioritize and optimize by using those tools and understanding which are the key contributors to the problem and which are not the key out of all the parameters that you think influence the output or the problem. And that's where we found out that one of the most significant contributors of long discharge time was preparation of discharge summary. Because that is what took the longest amount of time in that entire cycle time of patient discharge. And we said that if we take this part out of the whole process, then we can collapse the time by more than 50%. And that is where now innovation came in. How do you take out patient discharge from a patient summary, discharge summary, out of a discharge process? So again, logical questioning. Are all patient discharges a surprise in the morning? And that is what is another beauty of problem solving using Lean Six Sigma, that you have to ask stupid questions. Because you should not feel embarrassed about asking stupid questions, because when you ask stupid questions, you get intelligent answers. So I was a consultant and I said, I don't know about hospitals and hospital administration, so I have all the authority to ask the most stupidest of questions. So I asked a stupid question that, are all patient discharges a surprise every morning? They said, no, 70% of the cases, we know that the patient is going to be discharged tomorrow. So then why not prepare the discharge summary the previous evening? Because in the night shift, the resident medical doctors, they have a lot of time, so spend less time flirting with the nurses and spend more time writing the patient discharges. But then the thing is that it seems logical, right? That just prepare the patient discharge the previous night, your next day's discharge time will come down. But then do we just go ahead and implement that because it sounds logical? That's where Six Sigma says no, you can't do that. So you have to do a pilot execution, take out the data, compare the two, and if statistically it is validated that yes, by preparing the patient discharge the previous evening, the overall discharge time reduces the next day, then only you can go ahead. And we did that. It was one of the most wonderful successes across 6 hospitals, where we did a pilot run of almost 50 patient discharges, where the discharge summary was prepared the previous night. The next day, the discharge time was reduced by more than 40%. And we statistically validated that using the correct statistical tools of hypothesis and correlation and regression. And there, where it was established that it's better, so we implemented the new process where patient discharge summaries are prepared the previous evening for 70% of the cases, and discharge time the next day came down by more than 40%. And through that, 20% in occupancy improvement in the hospital, because when patients got discharged earlier, they could admit more patients, bed utilization went up, and the overall savings of more than 30 crores happened to that organization in 1 year. So that's one of the most best experiences I had, where implementing Lean Six Sigma in a hospital, which was never done till then. And that's why it was a demonstration project led by QCI. So that's one story I always share. Another very interesting story that I would like to share is working for a power plant and consulting to a power plant. I always use the term working. So if I say working, I would have worked in 100 organizations in 10 years. So always consulting to a power plant. And all power plants or any factory, they need to have an annual shutdown. and where all the maintenance activities happen. So the annual shutdown time for this power plant was almost 35 days. It took them 35 days to shut down the factory, conduct all the maintenance works, and then restart the factory. And it's a power plant, so they have to continuously supply power. So they cannot say for 35 days we will not supply power and you remain in the dark. So during those 35 days, they have to buy power and sell to their customers. So obviously, when you're buying power and selling versus you are generating and selling, the profit margin is different. So when you buy and sell, your profit is low. When you generate and sell, your profit is high. And they were taking 35 days. So 35 days of profitability loss was coming to almost 50 lakhs. And that, every year. So we did this project, and everybody was there that in maintenance we cannot do any compromise because it will, spoil the health of the equipment, and if there's a breakdown, then who will take it? So typical engineering thought that if you compromise on maintenance, you'll have to spend more on breakdown. And believe me, with no technical changes, just by working on the process, introducing more parallel, analyzing the process, introducing more parallel activities on the process, we reduce the number of days for the annual turnover, shutdown from 35 days to 23 days. And which was a lot of excitement to the customer because they had never thought that it could be possible. So it's one, you have to focus on process, look on how you can really optimize your process by introducing lean concepts of doing things in a more parallel fashion rather than keeping everything sequential. I always say that when you look at your process, you've got to look at it as a relay race. When one runner is completing the first lap, is that the second runner is sitting and saying that let the first runner complete the lap, then I will wear my shoes, then I will go to the track, and then I will take the baton. No, he's on the track, ready to snatch the baton and start running even before the first runner stops running. So that's how you got to look at your processes. Every one of us says that let him finish his work, then I will see what comes, then I will do what I need to do. So that what puts lack, and that is exactly what we worked on in this process in the power plant, putting in as much parallel processing agility, and that's how we could achieve it. So these are two examples that stand out in my life out of the many that I've done, which I thought I would like to share with the audience.
Thank you, Mr. Anuj. I was also learning as you were talking about these small case studies. I also got very impressed with myself when you talk about Japanese. That
Yeah,
we have only we nearly have no support, customer support, and I already said that before that we don't have. At least we aspire to be a very high quality, and this is all.
absolutely.
I think a lot of it is also this Lean and Six Sigma methodology. One is, of course, I do come from a military background, so probably somewhere in a DNA it was fixed, not in a framework, but in a attitude, but also commitment to the community as well as the learning that we got from Lean and Six Sigma, just overhearing various sessions over the last 3.5 years. I think all of that helped us to arrive in the stage that we will not spend into customer support for one reason we can't afford, and second is why should we ever to our own
Yeah,
people give something for which they need support. And I think by the time we start for the 2025 program, whatever small little knickknack that we are measuring, that also because it's technology and military people, and sometimes technology is also going through a version change. But I'm sure by 2025 January, we will be like an absolutely world class product, though in a very small and a very niche space, but we will be a world class product. That's really great. Second thing that when you talked about the hospital thing, and you talked about that, do the patient discharge, is it a surprise in the morning? So it's a whole lot about common sense, which you already talked about right in the beginning. There's a
yeah,
whole lot of it is common sense. But the beauty of Lean Six Sigma is it doesn't let everybody presume that they have a common sense, which could be rare sometimes, right? So common sense is also sometimes rare. So you don't just experiment in a risky manner or a rash manner with a common sense, but then you prove it with the data with a small pilot. So the beauty of Lean Six Sigma, the way I'm hearing from you, is that it allows the common sense to actually play out the parts, and at the same
and then
time guards you and helps you test it with a data based approach, and then you are
absolutely,
great to go. So that
absolutely.
was, I just thought I'll mention this because I was really inspired by all that small case strategies you told here about the application of Lean Six Sigma success.
Yeah.
Over
So
to
yes, so
Mr.
common sense and logic leads to a point leads you to a point where you have what you think is the key, but then that needs to be validated through data. So it's a
Absolutely.
combination of two.
Another line I really picked up for myself here is that there are no stupid questions. You ask stupid questions, you get intelligent answers. A lovely
Absolutely.
line, and I'll, I think, note down somewhere else, and I'll use it frequently with our cohorts. Over to you, Mr. Priya.
Great.
And
Thank you so much. We
just for that,
appreciate. Yeah,
just
sure.
for that,
Mhm.
I mean, since
Yeah.
and for the general audience also to know that 70% of the world's best management practices have been picked up from the armed forces. So the armed forces have always been an inspiration for all of us, and especially quality people. We really admire and get inspired by the armed forces because the meticulousness of process writing. That there's a very common saying that in the army there is also an SOP of how to pee. So, so we are truly inspired. And in fact, if you look at the world's first benchmarking exercises, they were also taken from the armed forces.
Yes.
So, how to organize and build redundancy, shift operations from one location to another location in the quickest possible way in terms of in times of adversity. I think armed forces has taught us how to, on a battleground, you have to shift operations from one location to another location in a matter of hours because depending on how the operations are going. Corporates have learned from that where they have built up these redundancies and capabilities to be more agile. Yeah, thanks, Priya.
Sure. So we appreciate you sharing those inspiring stories. Looking at the time constraint, we have two, three questions that are coming from our attendees as well. So we'll just address them now. So I'll request Mr. Captain Singh to embark on their Lean Six Sigma journey. Like people who are starting their journey with Lean Six Sigma, what advice would you offer to help them get started?
So one is often we see, given that we kind of today specialize into skilling zones, and military community is very large, so we also have learner psychology also as a research point internally with us. So one is a learner can remain outstanding for a very long time. So I think the first thing is if you're a learner, you got to start. You got to start. You got to come with a learner's mindset, and then if you are so, I'm just trying to push a person not just be outstanding, but if you are thinking or if it's there on the horizon, definitely go for a Lean Six Sigma. Then we'll talk about why Lean Six Sigma. And then there is, I think, a very rich military context here because a whole lot of people are from military here going by the reactions. So, like Mr. Andrew talked about that, a whole lot of things today in the world started in World War II, even before, and a whole lot of things that started from military, right? And clearly in the benchmarking, like we said, the very first benchmarking was done in military. We do come from a space as soldiers where we expected to be in attitude at least lean and Six Sigma in so many manners. We got to work with minimal resources and we got to perform. There is no second runners in war. A task must be achieved at all times. So the ambiguity or the error is going to be low at a soldier's end. So definitely we come from that space. But so much again for the rest of the people who might be attending this webinar here, I see absolute beauty in Lean and Six Sigma because I think its applicability is universal. That's number one. I see that it is sector agnostic. Anywhere there is a process and there will be a process, there will be operations because finally you can never be in project mode all the time. Projects will be have a limited duration. Then you get into processes. When you get into processes, there are going to be the waste and there are going to be those errors and they need to be rectified and then they need to be continuously improved because even if a process is perfect today, the environment will change and the conditions will change and may not be applicable tomorrow. So there will again be some waste. Some technology improvement is there, but you're into redundant technology or something else has changed. Expectations changed. So process improvement. Lean Six Sigma offers and to an initial learner, it offers just so much of stuff in those. Let's say if you're doing in about 30 hours or 32 hours of program, endless amount of terminology. And now, if I was to talk specific to military people, then a whole lot of terminology that we've never heard, right? So, in the sense, we follow Lean and Six Sigma, but we do not do it in this framework. So, there is so much to immediately pick up, whether it is, voice of customer or critical to quality, as basic as that, to a whole lot of, statistical tools, mini tab, using some of those getting into the a bit of a superficially into the maths, normal distribution, box plot, process capabilities, controls, endless number of terms that itself, as we call, military people love to call these as jargons that we must know when we transition. A complete checklist of that. uh, Lean and Six Sigma I see is applicable to a fresher who's just finishing education in MBA and stepping into the industry. Lean Six Sigma is applicable at all levels of hierarchies, or the stages that you're working, or function and roles that you're working. Lean Six Sigma is applicable to the top leadership. Lean Six Sigma as I see is a business tool by itself. Lean Six Sigma is a problem solving tool at your stage that you're working in. So I see so much of benefits of Lean Six Sigma that, and we are always working on these things. So today we deliver management as a discipline from Indian Institute of Management near free course. We definitely are working on, at Project Deepak. So we definitely would aspire to work for a space. If we can reach the minimal cost design, we would enforce the Lean Six Sigma to every single soldier. I think we will do great justice to our work in military. Forget about leaving military. I think it's time that while a whole lot of things were derived from us, like Mr. Anirudh said, but I think today, in today's world, with so much of things changing continuously, I think we need to revisit that, get into the framework so that we can apply it in all our workspaces. If another component I would like to address here is that, a lot of for these participants particularly, seek our advice. So which certifications to do? They are transitioning, let's say, from military to corporate, and they are into a spree of acquiring certificates at the last minute, right? So they would say, okay, I've heard about Lean Six Sigma, because we've now made it very popular into the community with the last 4 years of our work, that people know by themselves that Lean Six Sigma. So they would like to know, sir, Lean Six Sigma karna hai, when is the next patch? Then they would talk about, okay, so there is a green belt. I would like to do a green belt. Then you would immediately in the same breath ask, okay, can I do a black belt directly? Right? So then you ask a question that do you know what is Lean and Six Sigma? No, that's something that I don't know, but I'd like to save my money and time and be efficient and become Lean Six Sigma black belt directly. Now here I would like to talk about certain things to our participants, at least the military participants who are here, which I believe are a lot of them. The green belt will give you a good orientation about the terminologies, the components, what is the concept, what is the design, as well as a certain amount of capability that if you are in an organization, in your space, you are able to visualize things in terms of Lean and Six Sigma, put them into frameworks, put them into some kind of conversation styles and communication to your next manager if you see a situation, so that the managers listen to it better. They get a confidence into what you're saying because you're delving into a framework. So Lean Six Sigma Green Belt does put you in a very good space to learn the basics. My advice to Fauji community people would be, a whole lot of us, nearly all of us, should go for Lean Six Sigma Green Belt. Having done that in stage, then some of us who feel that this is something that we really like, this is something that we really want to do, and then giving a space of about 2 to 3 months, then some of us should go for black belt. It while statistics could be just about 20% part of it, but probably in the black belt you dive deeper into it, right? So it may or may not be everybody's appetite. Black belt will take a longer time. It will also have a larger cost. I think it makes a great sense for all of us to do Lean Six Sigma Green Belt from perspective of job search, from perspective of performance in military, outside military, any other industry that you work. We have teachers, spouses of military folks who do programs with us, and then they go back and say, I told in my school, and the school was wow, and the principal was wow, and I was taking classes, from my limited understanding. So beautiful stories. I was just speaking to a Amazonian today morning, a colonel who had retired about 4 years back. So I thought I'll bring some authentic user stories. I mean, we were very honest and we're very authentic. So he was saying that, sir, I retired from the military and I did not even do the 6 month IAM course, and I directly joined Amazon. And he said, so I was always in the short of, I felt that I was short of skilling. I should have done compared to other peers of mine. And he's skilled extensively at Mill West. He's done a lot of courses, including the green belt and the black belt. And what he says is that one direct advantage that I see is I'm able to, in my leadership position in the organization, I'm able to see challenges or problem areas, put that into the right jargons and the frameworks as I learned in the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt and Black Belt programs, So when I present to the top leadership, it is immediately picked up that it is the right, correct lingo, language, frameworks, and it gives them a confidence in me and my communication, and my projects have been picked up, and then organizational approval, we've been able to implement that. So, advice to those who want to learn: one, they should go for it. They should not be outstanding. They should get into the field and play into it. I think Lean Six Sigma Green Belt is a great stage to start from. And then, they should finish Lean Six Sigma. They should take 2 to 3 months and then go for Black Belt. Somebody who's in an emergency, somebody who, military folks, sometimes they just emergency. They would be waiting till the last minute and then there is an emergency. I'm retiring tomorrow. Somebody who comes from a quality space, engineering space, he thinks he'll be able to pull along. He thinks he has the capacity to go in for a black belt directly. I think it is doable. But to the largest set of people, I would say go through stages. There is time, start early and finish in 3 4 months time black belt. Those who want to do that, because by now you know the product, you know what is the context. Because a lot of folks come from a stage of unawareness. I can, while we are stretched for time, but since this is an important question, I would take just 2 more minutes to draw a parallel. So, project management professional is a beautiful, very popular certification in the world on project management. A whole lot of 4Gs want to do that, and the space here is again, Mr. Anirudh, I would say, I don't know what principles of Lean and Six Sigma philosophy we applied there, but we did study the process greatly beforehand, and we made the world's most successful PMP training program. So our success rate is 40% higher than the global rates. So
Mhm.
just by the data, we're saying that we are world successful because we beat it by 300%. We stopped it unfortunately a year back. But in PMP, if you see by design, 80% of people who get into the training program never go for an exam. Learners often come from a stage of just getting into a program. And we're talking a global average of PMP, 80% people never go for an exam. So people in a learning program come from a stage of unawareness and they think that the program will cure them. I think a stage framework of green belt followed by black belt is a great idea. You get to know what is Lean Six Sigma, you become aware, and then you invest deeper if you want to and go for black belt. That was my advice.
Great, great. Thank you so much for your valuable advice, Captain Vinay. So I would just, because looking at the time, I would like to ask one more question from Mr. Chakravarti. I'll just merge two of the questions that attendees have asked. So what is the key skill should an organization or individual will develop during the Six Sigma certification program? That is one. And if there are some misconceptions, what are those? How we can clear those misconceptions from our mind about Lean Six Sigma?
I think the most important skill that as an individual you develop is that of problem solving. Because what does management want from an employee, if I could say? Do you want to be the person who always raises the hand and says that the problem, or do you want to be the person to raise the hand and say that I have a solution to the problem? So if you look at a general mix of 80-20, which always applies to every situation, 80% of the people in the organization will raise the hand and say there is a problem. There are only 20% of the people in the organization who says I have a solution to the problem. So this knowledge of Lean Six Sigma puts you in that niche bracket of people in the organization who are problem solvers, decision makers, and who bring value to the table for the organization in making every decision that is taken, whether it is problem solving or any managerial decision that is taken, based on data. Because there's a high tendency of people in management to take decisions based on their experience and knowledge. While, like we said before, experience and knowledge is good to bring you to a point beyond which you need to actually use data to come to the real decision. So learning Lean Six Sigma puts you in that select group of people who are not scared of problems, but who enjoy problems because they know how to come up with a solution. They have the tools and the knowledge to break down a real world problem, the real skill that Lean Six Sigma brings to you as an individual for and a value add to the organization. is that while everybody is trying to solve problems, the real problems in a real way, you have the skill to break down a real problem into a statistical problem and then come up with a statistical solution and convert that statistical solution into a real solution.
So
So when
just
you
adding to it, Anirudh, if we can just let attendees know, because there are a lot many people who are asking about the step-by-step approach. So where should we start? Should we go directly, as Captain Vinay has also answered that? If you can just elaborate on that, but should we directly go for black belt, or should we start with the green belt, or basic white or yellow belt that is there in market as well?
white and yellow belt are kind of just awareness sessions. They are good to listen to, but if you're really serious about moving ahead in your career with the credentials of Lean Six Sigma, you have to start at a green belt. Black belt is a decision that you take because I do understand couples of the most of the participants are ex-Fauji's or current Fauji's. Mostly ex-Fauji's, I think, isn't it? They're all moved out of the army.
So now at Project Deepak, we have a lot of current Faujis actually, but
Current Fauji's also.
also community members, spouses, and who are
Very
working.
good.
So yeah, it's a mix of
Very good.
working the corporates and yeah.
So point is that there are people who don't want to give up their core competency. If you're a facility manager, you want to remain as a facility manager. You don't want to give up that role because that is what you have learned, that is what you are qualified for, that is what your education has been. So you want to continue in that career. But along with it, you also want to bring value to yourself and value to the organization by solving problems. Then green belt is your path. Because green belts are those people in the organization who solve problems along with doing their normal routine jobs. And at any given point, you would be on maximum one project at a time, or in a state situation, possibly two projects at a time. But a black belt is a resource who dedicates their entire career to being Lean Six Sigma expert and coaching other green belts. So where your 80% of your job will be about only implementing Lean Six Sigma in the organization, planning for the Lean Six Sigma execution, identifying where Lean Six Sigma needs to be implemented. I think one of the questions was that if does Lean Six Sigma work in facility management? I don't think there is any better area where Lean Six Sigma works, because when you're doing facility management, there are hundreds and hazar problems that happen. ये fault, failures are unlimited over there. So every failure that is there in terms of maintenance time se nahi hota hai, the consumables are not available on time, uh, the power is the restoration time is very high. So I have been in facility management myself for 2 years and possibly more than 200 opportunities out there. So point is here that if you want to continue in your core competency and your routine job, but along with that also add value by solving problems, then green belt is what you want to do. But if you want to say, no, I really like this and I want to be more of a problem solver and less of a core competency, then you progress to black belt. Because otherwise, doing the expected role of a black belt, because when an organization hires you as a black belt, the organization expects that you will create the strategy for Lean Six Sigma. You will identify where Lean Six Sigma will work, where it will not work, where are the prioritized areas, what kind of projects should be taken up, who should be trained, coach the people in their projects. So the scope of work is much higher as a black belt. As a green belt, you're just doing projects. So it's your personal call what you want to do as a career and a future growth path, and then decide whether you want to do a green belt or do a black belt.
And
Just it's not necessary that it's like a BSc and an MSc that I
true,
have done BSc, so I should do MSc. No,
true,
it is a career decision that you take whether you want to be part-time Six Sigma resource or full-time Six Sigma resource.
true.
As
Yeah.
a part-time Six Sigma resource, green belt. As a full-time Six Sigma resource, black belt.
And I would also like to share here, Mr. Anirudh and Ms. Priya, that like we have today participants who are working in the industry and who come back and say, now my new job role, I've been told, do a black belt and come. It'll be
Black
good.
belt, yeah.
So one is of course when you do a black belt and you're looking at being utilized as a dedicated resource, larger
Right.
dedicated resource to be a Lean Six Sigma implementer or initiator in the organization. Other is today, I think the importance of Lean Six Sigma is permeating enough that employers today in certain roles see a value that the person who's joining is
Yeah.
doing a black belt also.
Huh.
That's one part. And similarly, from a military perspective, those who are in service and looking at transition, I think Lean Six Sigma Green Belt itself
Right.
offers you a
Entry.
lot of insight because we don't know the jargon. So Lean Six Sigma will tell you about business, will tell you about customer, will tell you about voice of customer, critical to quality, creating program charter, whole lot of stuff, project charter, a whole lot of stuff which will automatically start your understanding of a domain which otherwise you've been insulated from. But to a very large number of people who find green belt good, and you're comfortable with that and you want to go ahead because it also provides a component of data based approach in black belt even deeper, and some of the methodologies into get into deeper, because somewhere even in the data part and military we remain a little insulated because we don't necessarily work on data because data would be in niche pockets because it's a confidential data. So I think I still see certain amount of value even for the people who are looking at transition. If they find green belt is good and they want to get into black belt, by all means, what I meant was by my saying step by step is do go for green belt, take a pause, understand the concept so that
Yeah.
you're ready for a black belt if you want to be, and you also know the product. But this was a very good decision. There are a couple of questions I think in Q&A, some of them relevant, and I think you will take some of them on. But one of the questions I
Yeah,
just picked up
though,
was that somebody
yes.
wanted to know who's certifying it and etc. and what is the validation. And this is a typical it's a Milwestion question. So it's
Yeah.
from a military mindset. I can read the question. So the certification that I think we will talk about it about various kind of certification available. And somebody said, how is it different from the big fours? So we are definitely sitting at big fives at this moment, right? So it's only a question of whether big fours or big five, and it's all notional. Grant Thornton is a global consultancy, and it has offices I think in about 148 countries and a whole lot of offices in India. Very competent people.
Certainly.
And at Milwest, we can definitely vouch for that. I think this is the best program in the country because we worked with this team for about 3.5 years, and the kind of so we have had, just for the interest of those who are in the webinar and somebody who may have asked this question, today we have people in the industry who come to us. They say we want to do a Milwest program, and they are aircraft manufacturing industry, right? And they tell us that we made our team undergo a Lean Six Sigma 3 years earlier also. It had no effect, and we want to today do a Milwest program. And then they go back and then they was input that this was a fantastic program and this has really had an impact. And I am so proud to say that, I'm happy to say that when we say Milwest program, I think our best program, and courtesy, it is courtesy Grant Thornton and the team, that we have a name today, because I think the one is we've had a greatest cooperation from Grant Thornton. That's how we normally never talk about organizations, but so happy to talk about Grant Thornton as an organization. The team assimilation, the team understanding of the requirement for the veterans, and the team's readiness to act at 1 o'clock in the night. And I can start taking names, Mr. Ayushman and others who respond to us when there's a veteran requirement. So the program has been so strong that today we have an appeal. It's a third party program. It's a Grant Thornton program while we do jointly. And of course, there is a effort that we put in from our side, but
Right.
it's a joint certificate. But courtesy the delivery by the Grant Thornton and a beautiful delivery, today we have a name in the industry that there's a demand for the Milwest program, which is actually a Grant Thornton program. So we can definitely vouch for that part. I think there is not I think, a Lean Six Sigma, unlike a Scrum or a PMP, which are brands held by some global organizations, so they have a limitation of time and validity. I think Lean Six Sigma one should do as early, because one thing that you acquire here, like Mr. Anuj said, is the problem solving mindset. So I think among all the things that you acquire, one is you acquire a mindset of a Lean and Six Sigma and problem solving. And the sooner that you do it, I think
Better.
it's going to be a journey of excellence. Whether you want to be a Lean Six Sigma expert, you don't want to be a Lean Six Sigma expert, I think it's going to be in a personal evolution and the way you visualize the space. You want to be a problem creator, problem stater, or a solution collaborator. so it change you into those spaces and move you from bucket to bucket. So I think that's a great zone to be, and we should start. And the certificate has no validity, as in endless validity. There is no, you don't have to renew the
Yeah, it's a
certificate.
lifetime validity.
It's a lifetime validity. And the sooner you start and the sooner you progress in the path and write then your own signatures after the certificate and implement them in your life and spaces, and you want to do black belt thereafter, implement further. This naval surgeon that I talked about, who ended up saving a lot of money for the Coast Guard, probably improving Navy, because Coast Guard said that your officers improved us, you can improve the process. He definitely went from green belt to black belt and improved the organization and derived even more signatures. And I'm sure wherever he goes, he would probably excel for himself.
Right.
Great,
Uh,
great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Captain Singh and Mr. Chakravarti, for your time and profound insight. As we conclude our knowledge sharing session here itself, we have already extended our time. So I'll invite any final question. I'll request everyone to put it on Q&A section, and rest assured, all the unanswered question would receive a email, like response via an email. Just additionally, allow me to provide details of our upcoming batches of Lean Six Sigma Green Belt that is happening on a weekend, pure weekend batch, and our Lean Six Sigma Black Belt training program. We have the contact details for any further query. Uh, Feel free to reach out to our direct numbers. I think so. Maximum people, you will have our email IDs, but definitely we'll be dropping you an email, and you can just revert us back with any queries that you have. So once again, a heartfelt thank you to all our participants for joining us today. We hope this session has enriched your understanding of Lean Six Sigma methodology. Hope to see you soon in our upcoming batches that will be happening.
may
Thank
I
you,
add
Priya.
this?
Thank you, Captain Saab.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody who were part of this program. All the
Thank
best to all of you.
Thank you so
And
much.
would be very happy if any one of you want to reach out and get any further advice or information. Contact Priya Ayushman. They will contact me and definitely put all you in touch with me. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Great.
I just wanted to add one more line
Captain,
here, that
yes.
for the Milwest participants, in case you're getting in touch with these numbers, do mention that you are a Milwest or a military participant, because Grant Thornton,
Yes.
since they work with us,
Yeah.
I mean, the two organizations work very closely, they will have something special for you in terms of a largest batch. So do mention that, and probably you'll get, you mentioned that if a military, they already have a, they align with the philosophy and something special is there. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, all the participants who listened here. Thank you, Mr. Andruth, for allowing me to comment on some of the user experiences of Lean Six Sigma, from asking community member to skill, and allowing me to share the space with you of 27 years of experience that you have on Lean Six Sigma. Thank you so much. It was great learning, and great connecting with you after 2 years here on the session itself. Thank you, Ms. Priya. Thank you, Grant Thornton, for allowing us to be here.
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Our
Thank you
pleasure.
so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you so much.